I am here representing Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, and I'm excited to talk to you about some different careers that exist within our district and just this industry in general. But let me go ahead and start off with just a brief introduction on who I am. My name is Caitlin Wu. I am the one in the middle of this picture, right next to our mascot, Elsinore Eddie, and then my colleague Haley on the right. And I'm the Community Affairs Specialist for EVMWD. And what that looks like is that about half of my job is focused on water education. So I get to go to schools talking about careers in the industry, giving tours of our district, and then I also help with some different programs and contests like our poster contest, creative writing contest. And then for the other half of my job, it's very much focused on public outreach. And so I do a lot of writing. I write press releases, different content for newsletters and articles. And I'm also traditionally before COVID, really involved with community events. And our goal with that is just to be really engaging with our community so that they learn more about what we do here at the district and so that we hear more about what they're looking for in their services with us. So I've actually been in the water industry just since 2019. It's been a rather brief amount of time, most of which has occurred within this pandemic. But one of the reasons I'm so excited to be here talking to you today and to discuss opportunities in the water industry is that it's not a career that I was aware of in high school or college or even immediately after college. It definitely is something that I didn't come across until a few years into my career. And so because of that, knowing what a truly great industry it is, I'm excited to give you a jump start and a little head start over me in seeing this as a possibility for your future. So previously, before my position at EVMWD, I was actually working in higher education. I was an international admissions specialist, and I worked with students overseas who wanted to come to college here in the US. And I would help them through the application process with a lot of immigration paperwork for student visas and help them kind of evaluate their options for academic programs. And I truly did love that. But after a few years, I was kind of looking for a change and a different way to be reaching out to the public. I have a bachelor's in public relations and psychology, and the PR degree is especially very relevant in my current field. And I graduated from California Baptist University. So if any of you are looking for a four-year college after high school, I highly recommend it. I had a wonderful experience there. But now I would love to hear from you. So if I could have just a few of you, maybe even just one or two, unmute yourself or raise your hand. Tell me a little more about you. Tell me if you know what you want to do after high school, or even just tell me your favorite subject. I'd love to know who I kind of have here in the room with me. I am the type who calls on people if they don't raise their hand, so just be warned.
Okay, I don't know. Do I raise my hand or do I talk?
Go ahead and talk. This is great.
Well, I'm still trying to pinpoint what I'd like to do. The things that I know I'm interested in revolves around games, like the whole video game world, and acting, because I know a little bit about that. So, I mean, maybe anything that revolves around that is what I'm interested in, and especially in high school. I did drama and art and a few different things that could help me with what I want to do, except I kind of need to do them again in order to be any more, I don't know how to put it. I don't know, just to be successful in that area, I guess.
Great, thank you. And anyone else? Can I get one more volunteer?
I volunteer, Mr. Niebling.
Well, I mean, he is in a career, but if he has any additional interests, or perhaps he can announce that he's changing his career and shock out all of his coworkers. Can I have Diana? Can I have you share? I noticed you joined and I'd love to hear from you. You can even, I suppose you don't have the chat. If you even want to message Mr. Niebling in Zoom and he can share if you'd be more comfortable with that. if any of you want to utilize the chat feature. Okay, I won't put you on the spot too much. Oh, here we go.
For me, I low-key want to do something business-wise.
Okay.
It's like make my own business or something like that.
Great. That leaves you with tons of options. So that's really good. Great. Well, thank you guys. I will be asking a few more people for participation. So be ready for that. But if you're like me in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so if you find yourself overwhelmed or stressed when people like me ask what you're interested in, let me reassure you that it is completely fine if you have not figured it out yet and if you don't know what you want to do. Trust me, even those friends of mine who had an entire plan for their life when we were seniors in high school, most of them ended up changing it. And so don't let yourself be too overwhelmed. You have a lot of time to kind of explore different options. And by a lot of time, I don't mean waiting around forever to like look for a job. But if you get a job out of high school and you realize, this isn't exactly for me, luckily it's not too late and you can always try a different thing. And so even like I shared from my own professional journey, I started off in one field, enjoyed it, but thought maybe I would enjoy something a little more. And so then I made the switch. That's just on more of a personal encouragement side. Don't be overwhelmed and stressed this final year of high school just because you feel pressure to have it all figured out. It's okay if you're still exploring. And like I have so many options up here, there's truly a lot of different subjects and a lot of different talents that you can take advantage of and pursue after high school. So let me give a brief overview of who we are here at EVMWD. If you're like most people, you turn on your tap water or you flush your toilet and you don't give any additional thought to it, to where the water is coming from or to where it's going. But the reality is each one of those actions that you take is supported by your water district. Here at EVMWD, we are a public nonprofit agency. And so that means that unlike businesses who sell you a product so that they can make profit, we simply provide a public service. And the money that our ratepayers give us for their water bill simply goes towards staffing expenses and the cost for importing water or for building new pipelines. It's all at cost. It's not for profit. We do provide public water service, but in addition to that, we also provide water supply development and planning. And so what that means is that while we're providing water here in the present, we're also looking towards the future, and we're making really strategic decisions to make sure that your children and their children still have access to water and that we're not depleting our resources in this area. And then finally, we also offer wastewater treatment and disposal, and then recycling of that water. And so anything that goes down your tap or goes down your drain or goes down the gutter outside your home, if you're in our service area, we're taking that water and we're treating it to remove all the bacteria and purifying it so that it can be used for irrigation or replenishing our groundwater. We do have 747.5 miles of water pipeline in our service area. It is primarily all below ground, so you wouldn't see that, but it's a really extensive network that we are charged with caring for. We provide over 7 billion gallons of water each year to our customers, and we have 170 employees right now who serve 155,000 people in a 97 square mile service area. So that's a little bit more about who we are. And now I'd love to talk a little more about some water facts. I'm sure most of these you're going to remember probably from maybe 5th grade science when you go over a lot of these facts, but it kind of underscores the importance of what we do. So as you're probably aware, about 70% of the Earth's surface is water, but only 1% of that water is actually drinkable. The remaining 99% can't be used because the majority of it is either ocean water, which if you've ever swallowed and choked on ocean water, you know it's not refreshing or good. Or a small portion of that would be frozen glaciers or ice caps. And so humans can live more than 30 days without food, but only 4 to 7 days, even less in summer, without water. And the reason for that is because our body is made up of water. And so it's an essential resource to our health and life. On a worldwide scale, I have always been interested in looking at a global scale of things, hence the reason I worked with international students. And so because of this, I'm really personally invested in the global state of our water supply. So the World Health Organization estimates that about 2.1 billion people lack safe water at home. About 2 billion people rely on a drinking water source that's contaminated with feces. And not only is that disgusting, but it's also incredibly dangerous because it carries really dreadful diseases that we've pretty much eradicated here in the US, but that still live on in these societies that have to depend upon contaminated sources. And the WHO also estimates that in just 5 years, half of the world's population will be living in water-stressed areas. And the reason for that is because our world's population is continually expanding, and yet our supply of water is being depleted by just the increasing demand and the decreasing resources. So one of the reasons I like to talk about some of those water facts on the previous slide and then more of the global statistics is because it really underscores the importance of being proactively involved in caring for our resources, specifically water. And if you are looking for a career where you can make a difference, a lot of people think of becoming a nurse or becoming a doctor, and those are great things. Most of my in-laws are in the medical field, and that's really good. But we also overlook things like this because if you look at global conflict and the economy, so much of it is tied around water and depleted resources. And so if you want to provide people with the ability to thrive and to grow, then helping be a part of providing water and protecting water is a really great career to go into. So apart from that, reasons to work in water, and then I'm going to go into specific fields of water. But one, there's job security because people always need water. And this has become increasingly apparent throughout this pandemic as many of our industries virtually shut down overnight. And if your family is in hospitality or entertainment or retail of any type, and you've experienced layoffs and experienced hardship, let me say I'm just so sorry because I know this is a really tough time for our community. But one of the reasons why the water industry offers a lot of security is because no matter how hard things get, even if there's a global pandemic, people need water and we need to be working here. And so we didn't have to lay anybody off here at the district within this timeframe of the pandemic, simply because all of our jobs were still really important and necessary. There's also the opportunity to impact public health, the environment, and the economy, and I already touched on this a bit. On a really practical side, there's great pay and benefits. And so if you're looking for a career where you don't have to spend years in college and getting a lot of debt just to provide for your family, this is a really good one to consider because you can make a really good income and you can get your career kickstarted a little faster instead of having to pursue a terminal degree like a master's or a doctorate. It's also an industry that has a lot of upward mobility, meaning that there's room to advance. So you can start off in an entry-level position and then you can work your way up and you can either move around within an organization or just increasingly move up in a certain category. And you can choose from a lot of different roles and education requirements. And I'll touch on those requirements a little more later. And finally, you can meet the need. There is a critical shortage of professionals within this industry, and that shortage has only been aggravated by the pandemic. We have a lot of people who were nearing retirement in 5 to 10 years, and they decided to retire early because for them, they'd rather be safe at home with their families than having to come to work each day. So because of that, we really need young professionals to kind of step in the gap and begin contributing to this field. So in October of each year, there's something called Water Professionals Appreciation Week in California. And this is just a little graphic that we had this year to kind of promote the careers in this field. So some of the different opportunities that exist would be engineering, water treatment, finance, human resources, public information and communications, operations and maintenance, law, which many don't think of, and then customer relations. And like I mentioned, there are many, many openings. This statistic is actually about 3 years old, and I would very safely say that the number of openings has increased within that span of time. So let's talk about some different careers that exist within the water industry. There's water distribution and engineering, and this is a really, really big one because when the water is treated in our treatment plants, it then still has to be transported to our reservoirs, which you see here. And from the reservoirs, it still has to be transported to your homes or to businesses in the area. So our water distribution and engineering teams are a really important part of just making sure that water is transported safely and efficiently. And they're looking at future demand to make sure we have enough storage and distribution pipelines. And then we have maintenance. So if you're one of those people who just loves to fix things, or you like to make sure everything is in perfect condition and always running, this is a great place for you. Our maintenance team is really a backbone of our jobs because they make sure that these pipelines and the facilities that get your water to you 24/7 are always able to do so. And so we have some of our maintenance team who take kind of rotating on-call shifts so that even if a pipe breaks in the middle of the night, if it is a really severe need, they will go in the middle of the night to fix it. And then we have our field maintenance team. So this is, you see here, they're installing some pipeline on the left, and they use a lot of heavy equipment in some of their operations. So if you grew up always playing with tractors and backhoes and you love stuff like that, this would be a great place for you. And then we have collections. So this is not collections as in calling people asking for money, but actually collecting the wastewater and the things that goes down your drain. So from the moment that you flush your toilet, that has to be transported to our wastewater treatment facilities. And so our collections team is responsible for making sure that all of our infrastructure can help collect wastewater and transport it to our treatment plants safely and in the best interest of public health, since nobody wants to see or smell that. And then we have our wastewater treatment. So kind of a step after collections, this team is responsible for removing the solids and the bacteria from our wastewater and purifying it so that then it can be reused in other ways. So right now, our retreated recycled water is used to kind of replenish Lake Elsinore, and is used for some irrigation. And it's actually incredibly clean. Most people don't want to drink it, but you could without any adverse health effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of minerals I've noticed in some of the water.
There is. So part of that is just the actual makeup of our watershed is really rich in minerals, which interestingly enough, in recycled water, when you treated it so thoroughly, it's actually considered something called hungry water. It can be corrosive for pipes because it's too clean. So for most facilities, they actually have to add some minerals back into that recycled water. Otherwise, that hungry water corrodes the pipes. So there's a kind of ideal blend of minerals, and our treatment guys are responsible for monitoring that because it can change. And then we have our water quality. So this is switching to drinking water. And this is a team that makes sure that our water meets all state and federal regulations all the time so that it's safe for you to drink. We actually conduct over 17,000 tests each year at EVMWD to make sure that we are continually searching our water for any constituents that shouldn't be there, and then we treat it to make sure that it is safe and healthy to drink. And then we have our public affairs department. So this is me with my team in the middle, and then our general manager on the far left. And we're the ones who are kind of just out in the community, making sure that our constituents and our ratepayers have all the information they need about their water. And we're making sure that we're hearing them, that way they have a great experience. So within that, we have water efficiency, which my coworker Haley oversees, and education, which I oversee. And in my opinion, these are the two most enjoyable positions you can have because it's really engaging and hands-on within our community. Then we have customer service, accounting, and administration. And these are really, really essential components of just making sure that our day-to-day operations on the business side run smoothly. So customer service, I'm sure this is very self-explanatory. They are kind of the front line in answering the questions of our customers and helping them set up accounts, close accounts, pay their bills, and so forth. Accounting is really looking at the finances and the numbers of our district operations. And then administration is kind of just the foundation upon which everything is built. They're making sure that all of our paperwork and our records is up to our government regulations because we have a pretty high level of accountability with government oversight. And then we have planning and management. So this is a team that is really focused on strategic planning. They look at future demand, developments that might be coming in the area, and then they look at our current supply. And they're responsible for kind of closing that gap. They want to make sure that we have enough resources in our area for anybody who might move here in the future. And so they make sure that we are managing our watershed well, and we are building up our groundwater sources, not depleting them. And then finally, we actually have a board of directors. So we have 5 elected officials who, 2 of them were just voted in yesterday. Sorry, technically 2 days ago, but we found out yesterday. And they were reelected to those positions. But their role in our district is really to provide oversight and to be the voice of those in our community. So we have 5 districts, kind of in the same way where you might have districts that are represented by congressmen or congresswomen. And in those districts, we have our elected board members. So before I move on to talking about some examples, does anyone have any questions about any of those roles or positions that I just shared about? Nobody, that's fine. So let me go ahead and give kind of a sneak peek out to our, oh, sorry, Johnny, did you have something to say?
I was just gonna mention I don't have much experience with, fixing things or the whole mechanic idea of it all, engineering, whatever it was. So I don't really know.
So many of these positions have different levels. So in some of them, they will ask for somebody with experience, but in some, they'll just ask for maybe some type of background, but it could even be like projects that you worked on in a shop class or something like that that you could bring to the table. So that kind of brings me perfectly into these 2 examples. These are 2 of our more entry-level positions, and as such, we tend to have more of these available that open up on a periodic basis. So if you're looking more at the office side of things and you want to be involved in business and you like the idea of working indoors more at a desk, and then our customer service representative position might be a good fit. So for the education, it just requires completion of 12th grade. So you were all almost here, and some of you, it seems like, are going to be here within even 2 months or so. So great job. Then for the experience, it asked for 2 years of increasingly responsible clerical support experience, including customer service. But this could even include something like working at Target or Starbucks or perhaps a restaurant, because most positions that you might have on a part-time basis in high school or just out of high school do involve customer service because you tend to be face-to-face with the public. That might give you some great experience, and some ways that can be challenging. I know not all of the public is kind, but most of us have some sort of customer service experience in our past, even just part-time history. And the salary range for this position is anywhere from $47,500 to about $62,250. And I don't know if any of you have begun looking at full-time jobs yet, but this is a really good starting wage. I did not make this much in my first job out of college with a degree, and yet you can make this much with just a 12th grade experience. So that's a really great place to start. Then we have our field maintenance worker level 1. And this one, the CM stands for construction maintenance, but we do also have field maintenance and facilities, a few different categories and classifications of this. So for that field maintenance worker, the level 1 just once again requires completion of 12th grade. And it also requires some general maintenance and repair experience, but that's actually preferred, not absolutely required. And the salary for that begins at $52,400 and goes up to $68,700. So once again, a really great place to start.
And they would teach you all this stuff, right? Like if you don't have the experience with it.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds pretty decent. I just wouldn't know. That's my main.
Exactly. Yes. So all these positions come with training. They do require different levels of kind of base experience. But once you're hired for that position, they still train you heavily. They never assume that you already know it, especially if you're starting off at a level 1, like this field maintenance worker. That's very much like the first step in this career. So they give you all the training. And now we do have some positions that do require a bachelor's degree. So if you're interested in doing additional education after high school, but you still want to do the water industry after that, then there are also positions that would fit that well. So we have a really varied level of requirements. So for example, my position did require a bachelor's in something like public relations or communications, and then it required 3 years of experience in education or outreach. So if you're interested in these positions, or maybe I shared about one of those different departments that you think, that might be a good fit. One of the things I always recommend to people who are looking to decide on their career is to read job descriptions. Read job descriptions for a lot of different fields and see if it sounds interesting to you and if you think it's something that would fit your talents and your abilities. So if you'd like to learn more about this water industry, you can actually go to our website at www.evmwd.com/WESA, and you can look at the job descriptions even for positions that are currently filled. And you can also look at the salary schedule for positions that are filled right now. And the reason I say that, to not only look at current openings, is because you never know when something might open up. And if you're already aware of that, or you can even create a job interest card, then that way you're kind of one step ahead of things and you can apply. So with that, it looks like we have about 10 minutes left, I believe. So I would love to answer any questions. If you have any questions about the water industry, or I'm even an open book personally. So if you want to know more about my professional experience or my background, I'd be happy to help.